and welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. My name is Michael Cipes. You can find me on Twitter at FFBlitz, and I'm here with my partners.
You can find him on Twitter at FFBlitz.
And I'm here with my partners, Jeremy Browand.
You can find me on Twitter at DynastyMadman. Madman!
And Shane Manila.
So let's just get this out of the way, the elephant in the room. I am actually coming to you guys live from a quarantine tent.
You're always live.
I just want to make sure everyone knows this wasn't mandated by any health officials or anything. I just decided to go buy a tent.
Oh my God.
It's plastic. I cut out 3 breathing holes, so I think I should be all right. And by a tent, I mean a tarp. So I set up the tarp, cut out 3 breathing holes.
No one's going to sneeze on the holes.
Oh my God.
I'm going to wait out this whole coronavirus thing from this tent. So I think I should be fine.
You're fine.
Jeremy's not going to let you say one sentence without him talking over you for the whole night.
You're fine.
I can already tell the way he is. It's pretty funny. Yeah, unfortunately, everybody obviously knows what we're talking about with the coronavirus. And, man, everything's been canceled. I don't know. You know, we talk a lot of times about things happening right before we go on the show. But I don't know. Did you guys just see the XFL's announcement a few minutes ago? They canceled the rest of the season, and they said they'll be back in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. So the XFL was probably going to fold in like 4 more weeks anyway.
No, it wasn't.
So...
It wasn't going to fold.
It was not.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, so we got a great show tonight. We got any news?
No, the news is that everything's canceled, like you said. I mean, it's serious. I mean, like every sporting, every convention. Oh, and the draft. We haven't heard any official news yet, but I'm expecting that I will not be going to Vegas after I've told everybody
you're
a million
not going
times.
to Vegas. They're going to shut down the draft, and you're going to stay home, and we're going to podcast during the first round of the NFL draft. That's how we roll.
Okay, yeah, listen, everybody, obviously, if we're all going to within the next couple of weeks, it's possible we're all quarantined. But one of the things we can do is we can podcast. So we could bring you a show every day if you guys wanted to.
Every day.
So the one good thing so far is they have not pushed back the league year for the NFL, which means free agency is scheduled to go off as, as it's just
as planned. Well, they have to.
There you go.
Yeah, they're going to do it remotely or whatever, but they can't change. Yeah, like
sure they can.
A lot of things that are going on, they can't postpone it too much because they have to fucking do it based on dates, right, Shane? I mean,
no, because the league,
right, Shane? Right, Shane?
The league calendar year,
right?
There's no reason to push back the league calendar year, really, because it's not like there's an event where people hang out.
Well, but
I'd expect, the draft will probably be canceled, but where it'll get interesting is typically after the draft, you have the rookies mini camp, which is usually about 3 weeks after the draft, something like that.
A couple weeks after,
Yeah, we get the ooh and ah.
Wait, what do you mean by canceled, though? They're not going to cancel the draft in any way. They're still going to have the draft. We're not going to be there, and it's not going to be like a cool event.
What? Okay.
I thought you said they were going to cancel.
Oh my God! Hey, Jeremy,
shit out of me, Shane.
What I'm saying is they won't cancel the draft. I'm sure they'll do it live via remote or whatever. But there's a high chance, based on current trajectory, that rookie mini camps end up getting canceled, which also helps us sell some of those rookie players and picks in rookie drafts, because everyone gets to see those videos of players making plays, in a mini camp.
That's a hell of a point.
Yeah, but the thing is, with everything...
Good point.
Jeremy. Oh, my God.
No, that's a great point. I didn't think about that.
Okay, but there's so many things that are being canceled and so many things that are being postponed. It's quite possible, when you say that the draft's canceled, they're not, they could still do the draft. They don't need to have it in a public place with all the people around and everything like that. When you said that they don't have to stop the calendar year, I mean, with free agency, a lot of those players would go to the facilities, meet with the owners, meet with the they'll have to do all that kind of stuff via iPhones and Skype and
be really sure they want the person they're talking about.
Right, exactly.
We're just going to delay things for 3 weeks like everything else. Postpone things for 3 weeks, which it still messes up the economy because we're not getting things at the time frame that people bought tickets for, I mean, it's going to throw off things by 3 weeks.
All the sporting, everything, baseball, hockey, basketball, they've all suspended and postponed and all that stuff. And if this does keep going in the next couple of months, it's not totally unthinkable that the NFL ends up making some adjustments too.
Like I said, I'm already expecting rookie minicamps to be canceled or pushed back.
Yeah, I thought they said that today on NFL Network that it was going to already. Did they?
Yeah, I mean, you might as well.
Yeah, everything's going to get pushed. I mean, we can expect everything in the NFL to get pushed back because they're building in that incubation period, so to speak, like 2-3 weeks, like my school for my kids, which is smart. They're just building in that incubation period. It's the same thing for the NBA, the NHL, all the major sports. They may resume, but they don't know when they can start again. So they're just like building in that period of like, let's not let this get any worse. Let's try to contain it. And so maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road, we see these sports resume. But like what you're saying, Shane, is we're going to miss out on a ton of stuff with the NFL because some of it's not going to be rescheduled. It's just not possible to reschedule it.
It's kind of
right?
crazy.
It's not gonna.
It's completely unprecedented. Even when
it is.
There's been labor problems. I'm not old enough to remember the strike in what was it, 88 or something like that. I don't even remember. So it's really unprecedented.
Really,
obviously, on a much bigger scale beyond sports, but for fantasy football to have something like this where you're not going to get to see these rookies in rookie minicamp. You might not get to see any OTAs, to be quite honest with you. I know the College World Series is scheduled for June. They canceled that, and that's in June, and we're in March right now. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, obviously, let me put this caveat out there. Obviously, fantasy football is less important than real lives and things like that. So I don't think it's a big deal. It's just from our little fun aspect of the world where I'm going to try to focus tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how it impacts our little game.
Speaking of that, tonight we have actually 2 guests on that. We lost Jeremy. And both of them are coming on to discuss with us about the rookies, about what happened with the combine and what to look forward to with the rookie draft, whether we have one or not. We still don't know about that. So right now, have our 2 guests in the room, and there's been so much stuff thrown around over the last minute or two of what was being told. So Mike confused. And Jesse, I hope you guys aren't confused. Jeremy's been confused all night, and it seems as though it's going to stay that way for the time being. So let's just kind of move forward. So, hey guys, thank you very much for joining the show. And why don't you guys tell everybody about yourself? Mike, why don't you start?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I actually listened to you guys, and it's pretty crazy that a few months later, after I started getting this fantasy game, that I'm on the show. So thanks a lot. I'm from San Francisco, originally from Toronto, so I'm Canadian. And I got into the fantasy game not too long ago. I mean, I started just on Twitter shooting the beep with people on Twitter. Got into it with Garrett Price. Freaking love that dude, and he gave me my first shot writing over at Dynasty Nerds. So I have nothing but love for all those guys over there. And recently transferred over to DLF. Bunch of smart Galaxy brains that I'm trying to learn from. Peter Howdy over there. Big Galaxy brain. You got Jesse Reeves here, who I'm learning from, another big Galaxy brain. So I'm just trying to learn, man. I'm just a dude grinding out here, trying to learn fantasy game and just enjoy stuff.
You're a tape guy. You think about metrics too, but you watch football players, right? That's
look. I'd say I'm probably more team analytics, but I watch football. But I don't really pretend to understand film as a lot of the other guys. That's not my forte.
That's why you're on the show with Jesse Reeves, because we got that. Okay.
All right, but before we go over to Jesse, Mike, tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter.
You can find me at Mike Me Up with 2 P, so MikeMeupp.
Awesome.
UPP.
UPP. I think he's a lot. I do it.
Mike is an analytics guy, and I like now that I know to call him Mike and not Michael, so that's huge. And Mike's pretty humble, but Michael's pretty much shot up the stratosphere in the span of what feels like one season of fantasy football. Like
no way, no.
Let's let Jesse talk about himself.
Yeah, and Jesse, you don't need to say the beep noise. You can say whatever you want.
Reeves, he of the wonderful beard, who cheated against me on a dynasty game night.
Oh, did he really?
Did he really? You guys, dude. Okay, first of all, Jesse Reeves does not approve of that message. And you guys set me up that night. I knew that was bull. That's what that was. In all seriousness, though, first and foremost, Mike is definitely being modest, man. Yeah, he's definitely cemented himself and come into this industry and this space, as I like to call it, and made himself known. So, Mike, you're a savage, dude. Keep doing what you do. I think me and you mesh very, very well too, because you are like, I think more than anything, you keep a stranglehold on trying to be balanced with your analysis. Even though I am team analytics, I watch football, so I relate with that. Man. Like I have the Sunday ticket. Like I'm
dude, all day. You guys on the show because you guys both watch football.
You can find my work over at Jesse Reeves FF, working on a bunch of cool stuff. All my written content, my primary platform is Player Profiler or the Roto Underworld. You guys can see all my articles, written work over there. I've been in the space for 2 seasons now. This is my second off season. Just honestly, kind of just to go draw parallels with where Mike's at, man. I'm constantly learning from guys, big brain guys like Peter Howard, just some real incredible people mixing it up with big guys in the industry. And I just kind of fell into just talking about football, dude. It was, I fell in love with the industry and just kind of stuck with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just a lonely guy chilling in my mom's basement, just talking about fantasy football now. So it's definitely elevated into
I'm chilling in my wife's basement. It's the same thing.
Basically, yes, it is the same thing. So, but you guys can find all my work on Twitter, and a bunch of cool stuff we're working on here. So excited to be here more than anything. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, when Jeremy set this all up to get you guys on as guests, one of the things we were going to talk about were rookies, and with the coronavirus situation that's going on right now, everything seems to be up in the air of what's going on, what's happening. I had tickets to go to the NFL draft in Vegas, and it looks like it's not going to happen. And I know, Jesse, when we got you on, you started to talk about your opinion of what you think is going to happen. What do you think is going to happen with this draft?
Yeah, I just don't think with everything that's going on I try to be objective when things like this are causing mass hysteria, and everything that I've seen about this coronavirus, COVID-19, or whatever you want to call it, suggests that it's going to be a long ride, and that it's not going to be – we're not in the middle of a blizzard here, and it's not going to end overnight. This is more going to be like a season. It's going to be a winter of this coronavirus, and that to me suggests that it's going to leak into the draft season, and then probably into potentially like OTAs and rookie camps and stuff like that. So with that being said, I cannot imagine a situation where the NFL is kind of risking the players, the families, and the overall the overall integrity of the league by saying, everything else is shutting down, but we're going to keep this open because we want to make sure our fans get what they want. We're going to keep it open to the public. So my inclination would be that they do it behind closed doors the way that they used to do it back in like the 80s and 90s, where they didn't have fans and it was only the franchises, the organizations and stuff. So I have my hotel booked. I have everything booked. I'm not canceling it yet.
Yeah.
You were going to Vegas?
Yeah. I went.
So was Mike. So was Blitz. He was going.
Yeah, Jesse, I have my room still, everything too, but I haven't canceled my stuff yet either. But most likely it'll all get canceled.
Yeah,
it will.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and even with today's technology, the way the 5 of us are sitting here talking right now, they could do it that way. Behind closed doors, they could do it all digital, all on the internet through everything. Mike, you were saying something? It looked like
Mike.
Oh, no. I was just agreeing with Jesse, man. I think it's gonna be. I mean, they can't cancel the draft, right? But could you imagine? Exactly. Could you imagine they cancel the draft and we combine the 2020 and the 2021 class?
Oh no!
Our picks would be up and draft like in
Dynasty Twitter
Dynasty League
would just literally melt down.
Would explode.
You would go on Twitter and it would just be dripping. It would just drip off your phone.
Yeah. You know what's funny though about that? Maybe not combined with next year or whatever, but really in reality, if you really think about it, they could postpone it a month or so. You know, obviously they have their.
I think that's more likely to be the case.
Well, sure, but I'm saying
if they don't do it, like they'll just postpone things for a week or two and make sure, because possibly they could do it live. So they'll postpone it for a while, a couple weeks, and then if they can't do it live, then they'll do it like these guys are saying.
Yeah, they could do it that way, or in reality, they don't even have to. They could just still have the draft.
Postpone the draft. Stop it. The things we need to be concerned about in the fantasy sphere, not in real life, because there's a lot to be worried about. The things we need to be worried about in the fantasy sphere is rookie camps, OTAs, and
all of it. Yeah.
Eventually the start of the season, because you push those things back far enough, you're going to put the players in a position where they're not going to be in shape and they can't. They can't start a season after one preseason game.
Okay, well,
like that, or 2 weeks of practice.
So then, at least for us, for the purpose of tonight's show, let's just act as if everything is normal and everything's going forward. So
I want to see what Mike and Jesse think about the rookies,
which is what I was just about to say. Yes. So why don't we talk about that? Whichever Jesse, Mike, whichever you'd like to go first. But
both.
Okay, so Jesse, all right, how about Mike? Mike, so as if this was going forward, as if it was a regular season, there was nothing going strange. How do you feel about this rookie class? How did you come out of the combine? What did you think about the players?
I felt pretty damn good from the combine. I think there were people that performed that I didn't think would do as well as they did, like CeeDee Lamb, for example. I didn't think he'd run that fast. And then all the really stud running backs, like my boy Cam Akers, have been preaching his name like forever, and I knew he was gonna explode, so that was good to see. Jonathan Taylor, beast, nothing more to be said about that. Antonio Gibson was probably the one that really shocked me. Someone that we talk about him switching over to the running back position, and if he does that, that's like one person that I'm really excited to see where he goes in the draft. And then, the wide receivers, I'd say it's a couple really good guys at the top, and then it's more like some good to like average guys that are really deep that go into like the second round. That's kind of how I think about the draft.
And your rankings for what you were just saying, your rankings for those guys, those receivers, what do you give me some? Throw me some that you like.
I got Lamb at 1, Rager at 2, Judy at 3. That rounds up my top tier of wide receivers, followed by Jefferson, Higgins, Mims, Edwards, and then followed by Ruggs and Shenault. So that kind of wraps up my top 10 on the wide receivers.
Okay.
T. Higgins had his pro day today, and everybody was pretty underwhelmed, I guess is the word I'm looking for. His vertical wasn't great, his broad wasn't great, and his 40 wasn't especially blazing, though he's not fast. It's a pro day, first of all, so take that with what you will, but he skipped the combine. So skipping the combine, the tests there, and then doing it at your pro day and not knocking it out of the box during that pro day, does that hurt him in your rankings, or are you still just looking at him from the analytical perspective that he hits all those benchmarks?
For me, he kind of already checked the analytical side, and his 40 was faster than what I thought he would run, to be honest. I thought he'd run like a 4.6, so that was a bit surprising to me. And then on the other side, like I haven't really seen enough like correlations or any like deep studies that really show every single one of those things translate to fantasy success, more so than the analytics side and the draft capital, which I think he'll get with both of them. And like, let's not forget, this dude had like an 81-inch wingspan, man. He's a pterodactyl, so he jumps a little bit shorter, sure, but we've seen him like on film, like mossing guys. So I don't really think that's like a huge concern for me. I don't know about Jesse.
Yeah, no.
Jesse, what do you think?
It's definitely so. The thing about combine and the way that people tend to weight these data points that we have is from everything that I've seen and kind of parallel with what Mike said is that there's no like deep study or correlation that says that any of these individual tests correlate with fantasy points or that they don't correlate with fantasy points. It's the things that like weight adjusted speed score, height adjusted speed score, when we start combining combine scores and stuff, those are the things that correlate well with fantasy points. But at the end of the day, when you look at, and like his 40 time, T. Higgins 40 time was not bad at all. His weight adjusted speed score is going to be decent. It won't be what we thought it was with a 4.43, but it'll be good for his size and his stature.
Good enough, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be definitely good enough. But more than anything, what I say is that when we look at where he stands among this wide receiver class in terms of age adjusted market share data and everything, we're talking about an age 19 breakout. Everything that he's done on the field in terms of his best market share of receiving yards, 27%. So that grades above the average of about 20% threshold. He averaged about 24. So that's more than limited upside from my thresholds and what I do for age adjusted market share data. More than anything, though, what I'm thinking is that he's going to get the draft capital, and always lean with what you've seen in terms of production and on film. So no matter what, that 4.54 did not stop him from absolutely being a monster at the catch point, from being a big body X-style wide receiver who plays the bounce in the middle of the field deep. He can do it all. He's a versatile wide receiver. I think he might be more limited to an X-style role in the NFL, but it's not like he was totally completely confined to the left side of the field and he was only on go routes or double moves. It's not like he's only – so for me, I think that he's versatile enough, and it never stopped him from being productive in college. Why is it going to stop him from being productive in the NFL? And especially with how we saw last season with Justin Ross emerging, everybody thought that Justin Ross was going to be a problem for T. Higgins this year, and he absolutely was not. We saw T. Higgins just grab the reins of that wide receiver one and just skyrocket this year. If he's doing that with a candidate like Justin Ross, who's inarguably, well, I would say arguably, people have him already pegged as a top 5 wide receiver in this 2021 class.
Justin I love T. Higgins.
Yeah, maybe slightly outside. If he's competing and dominating against Justin Ross, we know he can compete and dominate against other NFL talent. So I would always ride with what we know and the production that we've seen.
What do we know now? Yeah,
exactly. So that's kind of where I lean.
I like it.
So Jesse, one of the things that happens with a lot of people that listen to these type of shows and then hear the experts talk about rookies, it gets broken down easily by rankings. And Mike just gave us his wide receiver rankings. What are yours?
Oh man, I could probably say I have a top heavy in terms of going all the way down to like 10. I would say I'm still working on a lot of stuff with my model and where I have these guys. I've been slow playing the process probably a little bit too much, but I go CD, Rager, and then I have Justin Jefferson as my 3. And then I probably, it's close, but I go Jerry Jeudy, Denzel Mims probably at 5. I have a sleeper right at edge, kind of outside of at 6. I would probably say it's a toss-up between – I really like KJ Hamler. He's a smaller stature wide receiver. He's probably not going to have the draft capital, but I really like the production that we got from him over the past 2 seasons. And then I'm intrigued with T. Higgins. He's probably going to sit muddled in that middle, maybe 6-2. Like 6 through 8, I'm probably going to I'm going to toss these guys around a lot. Brian Edwards also sitting in there. But I would say my top 5 is probably solidly is CeeDee Lamb, and then, CeeDee Lamb. Why am I spacing right now? I'm looking at
Jalen Rager.
Yes,
Rager's in there.
Jefferson, and then probably Jerry Jeudy at 4.
Okay, so
Mims there. So
I just wanted to jump in because Rager's a little higher than a lot of folks might have him, and Judy's 4. But I mean, still, that's lower than most folks have him. Most folks have him or CeeDee Lamb as their 1 or 2. What about Jeudy? Drops him down. I don't want to make it sound like you're completely down on the guy, but what makes him 4 instead of say 1?
No, definitely. He's so per everything that I have in my current model right now. So there's a couple stats that I really like to use: average yards per pass attempt, average college dominator, and then average dominator over average, which is a Peter Howard big brain stat. And then I also like to look at things like average yards over average too, which is another Peter Howard stat. So shout out to Peter Howard for these incredible metrics. The reason why I like to use these averages is because it shows us how much these guys performed over the average and how much they did it on average. So it's kind of a confusing when I verbalize it like that, but it definitely gives us a good scope of where these guys are in pertinence to the average. And right now, Jerry Jeudy, he ranks in the 80th percentile that I have for average receiving yards per pass attempt, average about 2.1, which is good efficiency. So he's going to grade out an efficiency on his touches for my model, but ranks in the 40th percentile in average college dominator, ranks in the 50th percentile in average dominator over average, sits at about -7% there, and then in the 50th percentile for for average yards over average as well. So those are a couple components, not everything that I use in my model, but he's not grading out in the 70th and above percentile, which is going to knock him down. So in terms of overall production, he's good, but from everything we've seen from an age-adjusted standpoint, he is more of an average style player. I get people want to argue for Alabama being that they had this absolutely wild wide receiver room, and that might have been the case. However, Jerry Jeudy wasn't necessarily able to separate himself from a guy like Devonta Smith or completely from Jalen Waddle in some weeks. We want to see.
I love your model.
These guys.
I love your model, honestly.
I love it too. It's a lot. I'm still working on a lot of it. But Jerry Jeudy, I like him a fair amount. And the reason why I do have him at 4 is because I don't want to be disingenuous to the process, because he is going to be a first-round wide receiver. Everybody loves the way that he runs his routes and the way that
he's smooth and he's good. Yeah. If you beat on him, you're a dick, because he's that good. He's a really good receiver. If you beat on him, you're just kind of an asshole.
Exactly. So if you have him outside your top 5, it is a little disingenuous to the process, knowing that draft capital is the strongest indicator that we have of fantasy success. Those guys tend to go on and be able to have a clear pathway to volume. Nobody's spending the 104 on Amari Cooper and not letting him come in and get targets. It's just not happening. And then when the teams that are drafting wide receivers that early, within the top 15 to 20 picks, they generally have a hole already to fill at wide receiver, which gives you
they know it.
Have a pathway to that volume already. So we know Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb are going to be those two guys that are probably going to be the most sought after wide receiver. So although Jerry Jeudy is an average wide receiver, I believe that he will have a pathway to opportunity very soon, and that gives him the bump for me. So I will happily put him at that wide receiver 4 spot.
Yeah, okay. I like how you said that.
Mike, let me ask you, who's one wide receiver that you think you're probably higher on? I assume you use a lot of the same metrics as Jesse. So do you concur with his Jerry Jeudy take?
Yeah, look, man, I like Jerry Jeudy. I have him at number 3, right? And a lot of people think that that's disrespectful, but to me, I like it when I really love it when analytics and film collide. Those are in my experience, right? Those are the players that have the highest upside and that really smash production, right?
Yeah.
So if there's film guys that are saying stuff that go counteract to what I'm seeing, I question myself, right? And then when I say, or when film guys say stuff that the analytics don't sync up with, then I question that. So that's kind of the process of how I think about things. And let me just throw this thought out there, right? We always talk about how Alabama has the best wide receiver core we've ever seen. He's playing with 3-4 first-round wide receivers. And, it's just puzzling to me because, Alabama has been the best program for how many years now, right? And it just so happens that the one year that they have 3 best wide receivers also happens to be the year they have one of the best quarterback prospects to come out since Andrew Luck. That is not a coincidence to me. So that's kind of how I think about it, right? You take Tua out of the equation, where are the 4 first-round wide receivers? Show them to me because I don't see it. Right? I just don't see it.
Yeah, right. I got you.
And in terms of answer your question, Shane, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's some people that would argue the adverse of that. That's not the correct word, but whatever. You guys are smart.
There are people who would argue with Mike and the other side of the coin. What I love about both of these guys, Jesse and Mike, and why we have them on the show is that they both are willing to look at both, tape and metrics. They're willing to look at players and evaluate numbers and not just get hung up on any one thing. And that's how we do things generally here at the HQ. Yeah. We never lean toward any one thing. We use all of these things as tools.
So Mike, you were going to answer Shane's question before both of them interrupted you. So go ahead, answer Shane's question.
Thanks, man. So one guy that I really like is Lynn Bowden Jr. And he's a little bit unconventional, but I put out a thread about him recently, but like he's just such a versatile player, and I think the way that the NFL is today, like if you put him with an offensive mind, someone like Sean Payton, someone like Kyle Shanahan, like they're just going to be able to scheme that player into place and into space. And if you can line up all over the field, create a bunch of mismatch nightmares, it's just a really interesting thing to me. So like, and he also won, the most versatile player award. So, in great company there with guys like CMC, Odell. I mean, this guy had 1,800 yards, man, like 1,400 yards rushing and 400.
I mean, that's no joke. Like, yeah, right.
It's just insane. It blows my mind. I'm just like super interested in him. Like, it's not really from like an analytics perspective. Like, he broke out as a sophomore. Actually, I think he did. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Jesse. I think he had like 30% market share in his sophomore year, but like that's not why I like him. I love his versatility, and I think he's athletic. I was disappointed he didn't run the combine. But he's someone that I'm really interested to see where he lands and what team takes him.
So what type of draft capital do you think Lynn Bowden Jr. is going to get, though?
I mean, your guess is good as mine, but I mean, I would love to see him go in like the third round. I think that would be like a really good spot where he it's not expected for him to just step in and just start as a wide receiver because he's pretty raw and he still needs to develop. But he kind of has enough capital and enough money in him to not cut him and basically, use him as part of the offense. That's kind of where I would go. Maybe he goes in the fourth round, but I'd say like if he goes anywhere later than that, then I'm obviously not as interested. But I think like that's where I'm expecting.
You guys with your blended tape versus metrics versus tape. I mean, people talk about that like it should be, we should argue about it. You guys embrace it like these are things that we need to do. What players after, the dust settles after the combine, right before the draft, what are the players that you guys, Jesse, Mike, that you don't like, and then the players that you do like and why? Zach Moss, Mike, tell me.
Dude, people think I hate Zach Moss, and like that's not what it is. Like if you looked at our BDG rankings, like we actually had him pretty high as like the RB6, but it's just that like once you go out there and like, I mean, first of all, fire his agent for telling him to run hurt because like I wasn't expecting him to be fast anyways, but to runs hurt and slow is just like poor advice. But just if you just look at it historically, like that prototype is not conducive to success. And part of it might be a self-fulfilling prophecy where NFL teams love to draft guys who are fast and big so they get more opportunity and as a result they hit more. But at the end of the day, like when he ran the 4.65, it was hard to. It's hard.
And you're talking about Zach Moss with the slow 40. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo a little bit what Mike said too. The issue with the running back position is that I love age-adjusted metrics, but they really don't have the same effect when you're looking at the running back position. So when we look at the running back position, Zach Moss he's got it. We're talking about a 36.5% rushing dominator, 84th percentile. I don't have a breakout age because I don't really think breakout age matters for the running back position. But
not for running back, yeah.
Even if you wanted to add it in, that's fine. Probably look at age 20 would probably be where Zach Moss sits. But either way, the thing with the running back position is they are generally granted volume as to where wide receivers, they have to take the volume. They have to carve out a role for themselves.
They have to own it, yeah.
They're competing with more than one of their position on the field at the same time, as to where running backs generally don't. So Zach Moss looks good from a production standpoint, but the main driver of where these running backs tend to get fantasy value is where they're drafted, draft capital. Draft capital is always king. And the main driving factor of draft capital, whether we like to believe it or not, is a franchise. So when a team goes out and they see Zach Moss run an official 4.65, which is in the 31st percentile, and his speed score is a 95.4, and that's the 45th percentile, and he does literally absolutely nothing at the combine. He kind of shits the bed, if you will. Teams are going to look at that and they're going to be like, yeah, this guy is not athletic enough to play the bell cow that he looked like he was at Utah. And inevitably that just leads to him being drafted in the 4th or 5th round as a guy who might have some upside, and then you just have to throw it all away. You have to throw it away because at that point, he's Elijah Holyfield, and you just don't need any of that in your fantasy life.
Well, you know what's funny? Wait, I'm sorry, Shane.
Right.
What I was going to say to you, it's funny that you say that, because one thing I was going to bring back to Mike. Mike, you mentioned that you had a thread, and one of the things I noticed on your Twitter timeline, you like write the word thread in parentheses, and then you do quite a few tweets all attached to one, which I find that very interesting. And people can't see your face, but you're shaking your head yes. But you actually...
Yeah, Mike, you're smart.
Okay. You actually did a thread 2 days ago about the fact that the rookie running backs, everybody's so excited and so anxious about all these running backs, but your opinion in your thread was about the fact that is there enough places for them to land? And that would go along with Jesse's point about where their draft capital is. And go ahead and tell everybody, it's really cool what you wrote here about the landing spots for the running backs, these rookies.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, a question just popped in my head when I was with Noah, who's my podcast mate, and I was like, dude, is there enough spots for the talent that's coming in this class? And that's something that like people don't think about, right? Because it's a really strong class. They're really good players. We love them. But like, I just wanted to kind of put some numbers to, where they could go. And the two factors I wanted to look at was cap space, because obviously that's going to impact whether or not these guys can sign a big name free agent. And then also draft capital. So, two of the most hyped like rookie landing spots for running backs was San Francisco and Kansas City, right? Because obviously we know they produce at the running back position. But when I looked at it, I just kind of struggled to find a place for them to take a day 2 or day 1 running back, because we look at the Chiefs and, they're sitting at 13 million of cap space, which is the 27th ranked in the NFL. And they have three picks in the first 2 rounds, just the regular picks. But, they have tons of holes to fill on the offensive line. People might not know that because Patrick Mahomes is just a god and covers for it. But their offensive line was far from good this year. And they're going to pay Mahomes like $200 million at least. That's what I would pay him. So you have a massive contract coming up. So you just like can't really afford to spend money on a running back. And they just won a Super Bowl with Damian Williams. So, it's kind of always like, it's like we really hope for these guys to land there, but I just don't see the space. And when I basically summed everything up, what I found was, again, these are my guesses, so let's not take these as log or say like, oh, Mike said there's no landing spots. It's just like my guess,
right? But the way you explained
it's the law, Mike. Lay it down, bro.
Yeah, and actually, for people to go look at it, go look at his timeline, because you didn't just say, oh, the Dolphins are going to take this guy. You broke it down in like 5 parts for each one of these teams. So you really
I love it.
So you really put a lot of
really good. It was really good.
I ended up with basically I thought the way I see it is there's about 6 committee roles available. There's 9 potential, I call it workhorse, but basically just view that as a lead starting running back role. And there's, in my eyes, 4 of those committee roles will be filled by free agency by guys like Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, and the likes. 3 of those roles will be 3 of the workhorse roles will be filled by guys like Derrick Henry, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, which leaves about 2 committee roles and 6 workhorse roles, except 2 of those workhorse roles are with Kansas City and the Steelers, who don't have the capital or the salary to draft anything. So you're really looking only at like 4 spots, right? 4 to 5 spots for all this talent. So, you have guys like Zach Moss, and Jesse brought up a great point, right? If I'm an NFL team and I'm going to allocate a resource to a starting running back, and there's only 4 of them available, am I going to pick the 215-pound athletic freak that has production and has all the other stuff?
You're going for Zach Moss.
Or am I gonna pick the 4.65 guy that may have production and may be good, but history and odds are just not in their favor? That's kind of how I looked at it.
That's funny.
You guys sound like Zach Moss is going undrafted to me, to be quite honest with you. And it's nothing wrong with
Reeves
that.
Likes that take 2.
I do not. I think Zach Moss is going to get drafted.
Yeah, I think he's going to get drafted.
He's
going to get drafted. What do you think about that?
but he's not going to be. I think it's gonna. He's definitely going to be like in a committee situation. I don't think he's which dampens his fantasy value. He's going to be an upside pick, a guy that you can throw that early third. Maybe if he slips that early third to mid, anywhere in the third is probably where I'd range Zach Moss.
I gotcha. Right. Okay.
That's probably where I'm spending that third round pick. If I can get him in the fourth, that's great. But I think he's too big of an asset, too big of a name right now. Had some backing during the offseason.
You're not going to get anything good. Yeah.
That's where you throw those darts. But yeah, I definitely think that he's going to have some upside. It's going to be all about where he goes. I mean, for example, I'll put a little bit of, I'll go with what I know. The Chargers are a team that would probably fare well for a guy like Zach Moss. He doesn't have to be the most athletically gifted back for him to complement a guy like Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is going to get those on the low end 12 and on the high end 17 total touches a game. He's not a workhorse, which does leave some of that extra volume between the tackles to a guy like Zach Moss. And if you've watched any of Zach Moss's film, you know he is a gap scheme power runner. He is not a guy that can get east to west. That's not the type of game that you want.
Left to right.
The guy you want to let split the A and B gap, and you want to get him downhill. And that kind of that is,
and that makes sense.
Good negative positive for kind of Austin Eckler. They will offset each other and there will be a good balance. So in that situation, I'm pulling the trigger on Zach Moss in the third round because I think there's volume left over from where Austin Eckler is.
So
Mike, are you the same way? Mike me up. Are you feeling the same way?
Yeah. I'm a little bit higher than Jesse. I'd be willing to throw it out there for Zach Moss in the later second. But generally, I kind of agree with that type of approach.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with both of you smart, handsome gentlemen wholeheartedly. Moss is going to be a guy that gets 15 carries for 60 yards, 0 receptions, and no touchdowns. So you're going to keep playing him because he's going to have a 2-touchdown game. You're going to run him out there 5 weeks in a row where he puts up a 15 for 60 day.
So wait, you're saying you don't like him?
Not even a little bit. No.
So one of the things we were talking about before, a lot of people break it down easily as lists. And you guys both gave your lists for your wide receivers. What are your guys' lists for the running backs?
You want to go first, Jesse?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think it's a fool's errand trying to argue anybody but Jonathan Taylor at the RB1 spot right now. But I could do it, and I will. I have J.K. Dobbins at number 1.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Number 2. Thanks.
J.K. Dobbins number 1, Jonathan Taylor number 2, and then I'm going with DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers. Those two are very interchangeable for me right now.
Yeah, I like that.
As sitting at the top 5. Then Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's probably firmly at those after JT and Dobbins. It's really just an interchangeable between Akers, Swift, and CEH for me. CEH has a lot of really good intangibles. I think that his game translates very well to the NFL, so it's hard to put him at 5. Just ask me tomorrow. Ask me the day after that. It might be a different 3.
Ask you after.
Exactly. But at that 6th spot, I would probably lean on saying that right now I have Zach Moss at that 6th spot. Keyshawn Vaughn right after. Benjamin is a guy that I'm not sleeping on. Probably going to hit that RB8, RB9 spot. And then after that, it's a bunch of just who lands where for me. I'm playing the production game when I go Keyshawn Vaughn and Benjamin. Keyshawn Vaughn made himself a little bit of at the combine, if I do remember correctly. But most everything says that right now, after we get outside that top 5, you are really just shooting blanks and hoping that something sticks. And that's it. And so for me, I'd probably say that's about my top 5, top 6 right there.
And I want to hear what Mike thinks about what you just said.
Or he could give us his top 6.
Exactly. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, do that too.
I got converted. I got Jonathan Taylor at 1, DeAndre Swift at 1B, and then got my boy Cam Akers in the 3 hole. J.K. Dobbins 4th, Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5th, and then 6th is Antonio Gibson.
Wait, so real quick, let me ask you, why are you so wrong about J.K. Dobbins?
What the hell? Dobbins to be one. I don't care.
I mean, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, people see J.K. Dobbins at 4, and that's bad. Like, to me, it's like, you have these like excellent cream of the crop guys at the top, and you're basically, splitting hairs. And the one thing that I couldn't get over with Dobbins, and please educate me where I'm wrong here, but I just couldn't erase his second season from my memory.
What season?
And
what
the reason why is like when I was watching, again, I am not a film watcher. I just watch football. But as a fan watching the game, I can kind of rationalize why he was so good in his freshman year and so good this year. And I think it has something to do with being tied to some mobile quarterbacks, right? Because he played with JT Barrett his first year, and this year he played with Justin Fields, the god. I'm putting my stamp on him.
Enhanced those quarterbacks.
Yeah. And if you just watch the plays, like at least when I was watching the plays, like Justin Fields was freezing like either an edge defender or a linebacker on every play. And when you give someone with J.K. Dobbins' athleticism that much space, he can do a lot with it. And that's where he really shines, right? And I'm just like a little bit worried, like if he goes in a situation, let's say he lands, in like with a statue Tom Brady or like Matt Ryan, like if he doesn't have that same kind of space, and then now you have NFL caliber athletes coming at you, will he be as successful? So that's like my only little knock on him. Like I still really like him. It's just that's why I split the hairs with J.K. Dobbins.
So your biggest concern is, and it's a pretty legitimate one. Well, I don't know how legitimate it is, but I'll say no. I'll say this: it's borne out by the stats. So his sophomore year, his yards per attempt dropped by, let's do math real quick, 2.5, a little over 2.5 yards per carry. He only rushed for 1,000 yards. He did have 26 receptions though, and I don't know if you guys
rushed for 1,000 yards.
I want Jesse to
Thanks, Jesse. That was a good.
Jesse to tell me about Dobbins.
That was
like 1,053 yards. No, let's write him off. Hey, I totally get the concerns from Mike. He's laying out like probably one of the best arguments, and one that I've had with a couple of people that I really respect in this space.
Same. I've heard it. Yeah.
Why didn't we have 2 huge years of just overall production? Why do we see a dip in overall rush yards and in rush yards and overall production in terms of rushing attempts and rush yards and market share over those from freshman to sophomore and then back to his senior year? One thing that I can say is that definitely by even just looking at the raw statistics, in that sophomore season, we see he had 230 attempts to Mike Weber's 172. Mike Weber had a fantastic year on 172 attempts that year, 954 yards, 5 touchdowns. So naturally, J.K. Dobbins is going to get the nod there with the 10 touchdowns and going over 1,000. But I would like to say that J.K. Dobbins ceded 172 rushing attempts to Mike Weber and still went over 1,000 yards and still had 10 touchdowns while logging 26 receptions for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Say that first part of the sentence again. Say that first part you said again.
It's huge.
Not the stats part.
Go
say
ahead.
That first part. Who did he see those touches to?
To Mike Weber,
who is trash. Who was non-objectively, he was trash.
Absolutely. I'm definitely not arguing that Mike Weber was or was not trash. What I'm saying though is that it does not matter who is getting touches behind, in front of J.K. Dobbins. He is a bell cow back, and it will be known when he's on the field. And also, I'd like to go on record and say Mike Weber's trash right now, but he was also drafted in the 7th round and really didn't have a pathway to going and getting himself any touches in the NFL. If by any reason he was drafted, in the 1st or 2nd round, I wonder what his volume would look like. How much would he have been given in the NFL?
I love that you analyze it
Jesse,
like
come
that.
on.
That
Look,
is fucking awesome, Jesse.
Jesse, no, because that point's a terrible point. If he had been drafted in the 1st round, he would have been a completely different. No, Jesse, I'm going to overtalk you now. If he would have been drafted in the 1st round instead of the 7th, he would have been a completely different football player than Mike Weber. He would have been someone much better than Mike Weber.
Absolutely.
And I like J.K. Dobbins. I just want you to know that he's actually still my RB1. But don't make that Mike Weber argument ever again anywhere. Mike made a good argument, but that Mike Weber argument was terrible.
Insert whatever name you want. You can insert Master T. You can insert literally any name you want. The fact of the matter is that he still ceded 172 touches to another, or 172 attempts to another running back and still was able to hit positive thresholds in terms of touchdowns and rushing yards.
And that's what I love about this whole thing.
I still don't see any problem with that. Like, for me, that is a major positive, because any team that I think does invest in J.K. Dobbins, I can't see him stretching outside the second, third round at most. And even at age 19, when we look at those age-adjusted metrics, he still handled 42% of the rush attempts and 43% of the rushing yards there in that sophomore season, which is more than we can say, more of the volume than Mike Weber did. But he still was able to garner that. I don't know. I haven't looked into the situation on why Mike Weber was the guy that was receiving touches there.
Well, Mike Weber sucks.
I think there's context to be added anywhere you possibly can. So I'm not. It definitely is. It's an argument, and there's something to be said there. But even if you want to look at, I'm on board with the fact that J.K. Dobbins had 3 straight seasons with over 20 receptions, and he handled a lot of the receiving work there. That is something that absolutely never faltered. 22, 23, and 20.
Exactly, and that's what people that are measuring who should be the top running back in the draft.
So, Jesse, we've let you monopolize the time here at the expense of Mike Me Up.
We're pulling it here? All right.
So let me get back to Mike Me Up. He's got I got to hear this top 6 again, because as soon as J.K. Dobbins dropped the 4, like, my mind went blank and reversed everything that happened for the last hour, because it was so wrong.
Mike, he didn't deserve that rant that you just bestowed upon me.
I love it, Michael.
No, but wait, all right. Everybody stop. Yeah, Mike.
Let's try that top 6 again, Mike.
Yes, go ahead.
Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Antonio Gibson.
So you know what's crazy about that list is that you really want to be like, that's crazy for J.K. Dobbins, except that every running back that you named in front of him would have been the number 1 running back in their class, except for the Saquon Barkley season and maybe the Zeke season. But damn, that's a great running back class.
It's top heavy. It is.
It goes back to, like I mentioned about Mike's thread that he put on his timeline, where he was showing the places that do need the running backs. You know, we've talked about running backs and we've talked about wide receivers. You know, the thing with quarterbacks, you know, that really ends up being where they're drafted. But do either of you guys, Mike or Jesse, do either of you guys like any of these tight ends that are in this draft?
No.
I wouldn't say I love them, but the one that interests me the most is probably Adam Troutman. He's a small guy.
I love Adam Troutman.
Yeah, you know, when he initially ran that 4.8, I was like, God damn it! But then he went out and did the agility drills, and
it was amazing. Yeah,
it was one of the best that we've ever seen. And you know, shout out to Angelo FF, I believe. The guy makes some sick films.
Angelo is awesome.
Yeah, he told me at this point, it was such a great one that he made, is that small school guys don't have the same resources to test the combine that big school guys do have. So if you think about the combine, it's kind of like an SAT, right? The more you prepare for it, the easier it comes to you. Obviously, you have to have some sort of athleticism, but at the end of the day, you got to get the form right. And from my understanding, to get the 40 really down pat, it's all about like the stance and your get off.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. If you don't have that type of training from like some of these small school guys, you're going to falter there. I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm just trying to provide some context that I learned from Angelo on that matter. But he's definitely someone that interests me. Like anytime a tight end in college gets to like 1K yards, like you kind of have my attention.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I watched some film on him. Believe it or not. And man, trying to find film on Adam Troutman is like it's like trying to download porn back in the day.
I'm in Ohio, man. It's like
okay. So Jesse, what do you think about the tight ends?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty poop class, but I think there are some guys like we're not looking at last year where we're gonna be taking, you know, Noah Fant and potentially TJ Hawkinson, you know, before the middle of round 2. You know, it's definitely not a class like that. I do think the doors kind of blow wide open when we get that designation from Chase Claypool, because he's going to grade out very, very highly against this tight end class if he decides to go there. I haven't heard anything specific on whether or not he will be designated as a tight end when he moves, but overall, in terms of athleticism, which is what we really like to see, athleticism and draft capital are the two biggest predictors for the tight end position. Somewhat similar to running back, but I would probably venture to say that in terms of just overall receiving work, I would probably lean Hunter Bryant as well. I like him. My model for Hunter Bryant is as a decent pass catching option, but I also do, for my model's purpose and for all the numbers that to be as genuine as I possibly can, I do like to look at a little bit of tape on those guys and see how they're used more than anything and how it can translate to the NFL. But yeah, I'd probably say those two guys are the most intriguing for me.
Even though I blew past it, do either of you guys have any strong opinions about any of the quarterbacks?
Tua, QB1.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mike?
Do I have?
Go ahead, say it again, guys.
Tua,
QB1.
Right, and then Jesse was trying to say something as well.
Holy shit!
Do I have any strong opinions on this class?
I have a strong opinion.
It's not even close. It's not even a debate. There's only one quarterback in this class that matters. There's only one quarterback that matters in this class.
It's not Joe Burrow.
Tua Tagovailoa, and that's it. Shut the whole thing down. It doesn't matter. He's the best. He's the most accurate. He is the most precise quarterback in this draft.
He's the guy you spend the money on. Yeah,
he's everything. That's the only one. He's the only one that matters.
That's awesome, and that's part of why I kind of blew past it before. So it's good that you guys both agreed on the same thing.
Again, Jesse's wrong because Joe Burrow.
Jesse's not wrong.
Well, no, but
say that.
Well, Tao you.
You can't say it. Just
whatever.
Say it.
Matter.
All right, Tua.
He might be the
Tua.
He might be the QB1, but I think Joe Burrow is still going to be a very good quarterback in the league, especially in fantasy.
I think Joe Burrow is a guy that my team's in a unique position, so I've been secretly scouting the quarterback position for a very, very long time since.
Secretly.
Since there's
Herbert, I love Herbert. Are you kidding me right now? I love that guy.
I do love Justin Herbert as well, but regardless,
tell them why.
Joe Burrow can make every throw in the book. He's just as accurate as Tua. The only thing that I can say for him right now is we've only seen it for 1 year. How sustainable is it when he gets to a more complex system in the NFL? Is he going to be able? I think tangibles exceed what we saw. Only time will tell. Tua's talents transcend the position completely. I think
no doubt. Yeah.
One of the best prospects that I've scouted, one of the best prospects in recent memory, at least. I don't think anybody foresaw, Patrick Mahomes coming out, but even he wasn't as complete as Tua looks.
What's impressive about Tua is he did it with a really subpar wide receiver core.
Oh yeah,
that's what I think is most impressive about Tua. I mean, because to have just three probably lock NFL draft first round draft pick wide receivers, that's hard when you only have three, because we don't know that
who's the third lock. We're talking about Ruggs, Judy, and who's your third one?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Devontae, what's his name?
Devontae Smith is not a first round wide receiver.
Fine, Jalen Waddle then. Oh wait, so I'm sorry, real quick. So he had two NFL first rounders, and then a couple second rounders.
I think Smith is like a third round wide receiver to me personally.
But so you're not as high as on their wide receivers, because I noticed Ruggs. Where's Ruggs on your list, real quick? I'm sorry, because I know I'm going backwards.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Ruggs. That's immediate.
He's in the top 8 still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, wide receiver 8.
Cool.
Jeff.
Outside the top 10, he'll probably squeak into my top 12, maybe at 12.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Why? And can I just ask, because I know he's pretty divisive. Why is he so low for? Well, let me ask both you guys. Mike first. Why is he, again, relatively low to other folks' rankings?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to the fact that he just didn't really produce in college, and you have very little examples of someone with his profile actually being successful in the NFL. McLaurin is the one that a lot of people will point to, But again, like, for analytics guys, like Jesse and I, we try and play the odds, right? When we say Ruggs is low, we're not saying he is 100% going to bust or he's going to fail. But for me, like, I try and allocate the top part of my draft to guys that have profiles that lend themselves to hitting at a higher rate in the NFL.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Jess, I'm sorry. So, I mean, I guess you would kind of echo Mike's points there.
No, it just comes down to the production. We've brought up some other really big brain guys like Christopher Bean and as well as Peter Howard have come out with or try to contextualize
my guys. I know them. Yeah,
teammate scores and other things that help out with the way we can help evaluate these wide receivers that are in crowded.
Yeah.
Nothing has stuck or shown to be predictive that that even at the very least 3 wide receivers can't at least grab 20% of the market share, and still 20% between 3 wide receivers is only 60% of the overall receiving volume. That leaves another 40 for tight ends and running backs. It is completely feasible to understand that 3 wide receivers can all be good and not cannibalize one another in an offense. The data shows it. It's not deniable. Henry Ruggs failed to do that. And for me, I just wonder how much of we say Henry Ruggs is a first-round talent. No, he's going to be a first-round selection. He is not a first-round talent. I want to get that very, very clear. He is not a first-round talent. First-round talents are guys who come in like CeeDee Lamb, who are as close to being as complete as possible and being nuanced in what they do.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
So, listen. It's been great having you guys here. It's awesome. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Before we wrap up, we did talk to you guys before the show that possibly we would do a really quick mock draft for our Patreons. But before we wrap it up, Shane, Jeremy, do you guys have any last minute questions for Jesse and Mike?
Man. Mike and Jesse do show one important thing. If you're going to talk shit on Twitter, be able to back it up.
100%. Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that will throw out takes. Then we'll throw out maybe one stat, get that stat eviscerated, and then disappear.
And
I'm not saying anyone specifically, but you know who they are. They're out there.
All right.
I'm gonna ask to interject real quick. I've been eviscerated so many times on Twitter. So my motto is get fucking eviscerated and come back. And
there you go.
Thank you.
That's it.
Especially if it's Shane.
And then come back. Because I get bodied all the time. So whatever.
Well, listen.
Shane's on your unbodied side. Because,
Jess, I got to say that too. I appreciate that because I think you just gave us the title of the episode, Get Eviscerated and Come Back. And then, so what we're going to do is we are going to wrap the show up, guys. We're going to do a quick 1-round mock for our patrons.
Yes, we are.
But not for the people that aren't our patrons because they don't deserve it.
Okay,
so
but before no,
for our bitches.
Okay, but before we do that, Mike, Jesse, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Awesome. Again, you can find me on Twitter, Mike Me Up with 2 P's. I'm always on there shooting the beep with peeps and just doing my thing. And then if you want to catch a show, I'm over on YouTube as well under BDG Fantasy. Me and my co-host Noah at FBGAWD, FBGod. We kind of just do what we do, what you guys do here. We just have a good time, talk football, and talk.
Yeah.
Mike, I just want to say thank you so much.
Mike.
Thank you so much for saying that we have a good time. You guys can all understand what's going on tonight, but and if people could visually see this, they would see the cracking up. And also one of our great super fans, we love him, Greg, over here down in the bottom corner. So he's in here as well. But Jesse, go ahead, tell everybody where they can find you.
The floor is now mine.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, you guys can find me over at playerprofiler.com or at the Roto Underworld. That's where all my written work is. Anything that I put out in terms of written articles, all over there. You guys can catch me on Twitter at Jesse Reeves FF. Pretty simple. I'm working on a ton of great stuff. I also right now have a podcast called The Draft Dialogue with my co-host, amazing co-host, Matt Gujewski. an absolute savant in terms of just getting that thing off the ground and putting up with me on a weekly basis, dude. He's an absolute savage. And so yeah, we do a live show, cut that into individual YouTube videos, and then put that onto a podcast stream for you guys to listen to, watch 10-minute episodes on players. We have about 40 to 45 profiled right now, so you guys can backtrack and listen to them all. It'll only take up probably half of your day, and you can get really knowledgeable about this incoming prospect class. So that's where you guys can hear me on the airwaves. And I'm working on a couple of big projects right now. One that I'll kind of tease right now for anybody that doesn't follow me, or this is like the first time you're listening to me. I am working on let's just say a comprehensive guide or a tour guide study. I don't know why. But it's called the Rookie Index. It's a thing called the Rookie Index, and it's going to be fucking awesome, and you're going to want to get this thing. It's a lot of shit going on in there. It's going to help you be a better fantasy player. So look out for that, and I'm dropping teasers, stuff like that within the coming weeks. And should have pre-orders.
And that's awesome. And Jesse, let us know, and then we'll let all our listeners and our patrons know when you do drop that. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for sticking around. I know it's been kind of up and down all night, and it's been a lot of fun, but we really appreciate you coming on. And we're going to wrap up the show right now, and then we'll go on to the Patreon. So, check us out on iTunes at DynastyTradesHQ. Also, check us out on Patreon. You can actually follow us on Patreon too, not just on iTunes. Give us a rate and review. Check out our Twitter account at DynastyTradesHQ. And again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.